The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, Roadshow Friday, back here at Rosie's 10th and P downtown for Boys State Basketball on Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. Hope you're doing all right. Gearing up for Championship Saturday tomorrow. First things first, some semifinals to finish off. Big Ten basketball in full swing as, my goodness, Ohio State stays hot. Plenty of Nebraska football to dive into and talk about as Coach Rhule spent time with the Husker Network last night. We'll have some thoughts on that busy show. Jack Ebling, Mr. Michigan State and Big Ten insider, he'll join us in 20 minutes from Chicago. Get Jack's take on things as the Selection Sunday looms for the NCAA and perhaps the NIT. Also coming up in hour two, the pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman, NBC Sports, the professor, before he is off for spring break. We will give him some warnings about spring break. Elijah and I have gathered over the years. Coming up, Brady Oltmans will join us in hour two, and Jacob Padilla live from PBA right around 5:40. Your chance to get in, if you like, 489-1240, 489-1240. To join the show here on Hail Varsity. You can also email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Send an email that way, or just tweet at us at Schmidt_radio. Give us a follow, or at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. Can watch the show as well as listen. We're streaming on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Also, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio. Give that a follow. Catch Coffee and Cream with Damon and Andrew every weekday morning, 7 to 10 as well. And if you want to watch on Facebook, do so with KFOR Sports, and also KFOR Twitter. So it's a lot of energy. You got a great house here at Rosie's downtown 10th and P. Still a little room for you if you want to get down, get a cold beer or soda. Wings, burgers, chicken, and as Elijah likes to say, he'll look at the menu, point and say yes for the appetizer, right? Because you're a big appetizer. You're making up for lost time. You made that abundantly clear as dear old dad was listening to you yesterday whine about, well, we never got appetizers or soda when we went out. I get it, dude. I get it. You get the look. Hey, can we get an appetizer? You just get the look. You wouldn't get the verbal response. You just get the look. And I kind of liken that to Coach Rhule. Pretty soon, all he's going to have to do to this football team is just give him a look. He'll probably give him a verbal cue as well.
Well, it's like training a dog.
It was good listening to him. It was good listening to him last night. What were you saying?
It sounds bad, but it's like training a dog. At some point, you can just give your dog a look, maybe point a finger at him, and they know. You don't have to say anything to them. They just know, you know what? I'm in the wrong here. You're right, because it's just the furrowed brow, point at him once, it's over. It's all, what is that? Which conditioning form is that? I don't know. It's been way too long since middle school for me.
Pavlov's dog.
Could be.
The bell.
Could be. For all I know. I don't know. I'm so far out of that. I am not smarter than a sixth grader, just to let you know. I've done the math recently, and I'm not smarter than a sixth grader. That's why I'm on the radio.
Wow. Pretty good stuff to get into from The Athletic. A couple of different stories out about coach rankings. We did not get to that yesterday from Bruce Feldman. He ranks his top 25 coaches in college football heading into 2023. Also, what's your team's ceiling at from a recruiting standpoint? Pretty interesting read there to get into. But some takeaways here from Coach Rhule. And it's all, Elijah, about urgency, but it's not all at once. I mean, the process, the steps, for this team to get where he wants them to be, where they want to be, is incremental. But there's a big picture and kind of a small script. You go from A to B to C to D, pretty linear here with what they want to do. And right now, as they gear up for spring practice here a week from Monday, he wants this team to just, as he puts it, be able to practice the right way, to be a confident football team. And those are two big things. And he's also really important for him to highlight, and he does, that, hey, there are guys on this team. They got better. There's a ton of heart. So their mind is in the right place. They've just got to go out and do it. And I know that's a little tired, and you roll your eyes because of the discussions we've had the last 2.5 years with Nebraska football, with what the score ended up being, but what you saw on the field. So it's a pretty good undertaking, but it's not, if we're looking at a football field, where's this program sit at right now? Are they at the 50? Are they on their own side of the 40? Are they on the right or the wrong side of the 50? And right now I'd say they're approaching midfield, despite 4-8 the last couple of years. And they're not going to talk a ton about the past, but I don't anticipate a year one under Rhule being like similar year ones under Rhule, just because of the situation he's walking into. Nebraska football has been a lot closer to 500 or better with some of the talent they've had and some of the ball games they've played in, versus the other way, that 3-9, 4-8. That's what they are. You've got to close some deals. Totally get it. But you'd hope one of them or two of them or three of them, dare I say, would go your way. And it just hasn't been the case. That's the fix, along with a lot of development that needs to happen with some of the guys that have been in this program and some of the younger guys they're going to be bringing into the program with this recruiting class and future recruiting classes.
Well, I like your analogy of where on the field this Husker football team is right now, because I go back and I think every single coaching tenure, I mean, you could really even argue every single season is its own football season or its own football drive in its own right. But I think back to Scott Frost and where the program was at, where Mike Riley left it. And I really think that program was backed up further inside its own half of the field than Matt Rhule is right now.
They're on their own 30 when he got done with it.
You think? Mike, yeah, I'd put it, back it up further up in their own territory. I'd put it.
So they're in the shadow of their own goal line.
I was gonna say, like, you fair caught a punt on the 12. You fair caught a punt on the 12, and you go, you know what? I'll take it. I'm not all that happy with it. You can work with it though. An 88-yard drive is not the be all end all in football. It's happened before, but you're not put in a good spot for it. I think Scott Frost, through the first couple years of his tenure, did actually pick up a couple first downs, and that this team was playing well. They were playing more physical, more like a Big Ten football team, but they just lacked a lot of attention to detail. So you had a false start, a couple of holding calls, and boom.
They'd fumble that punt instead of fair catch it, or they'd fair catch it inside the 3.
Well, I was going to say it's 3rd and 20, and
before Bushy got there anyway.
You throw an interception, and now you've set up the other team on short field. But anyway, I think
throw an interception at the 50, and they return it to the 20. Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
That was the Scott Frost tenure, and then you get into Matt Rhule, and I think Matt Rhule went in. I mean, it's nothing too bad. He fair caught the kickoff in the end zone. You're going to start it at the 25-yard line. And I think with the additions that they brought in, you still have a long way to go to get this program back to where it needs to be. But I think with additions in recruiting and in the transfer portal, as well as some of these things we've heard coming out of winter conditioning with how they're treating the competition year-round, making sure guys know the expectations around this program, I think we can realistically say, though the season hasn't technically started, as we approach spring ball, they've probably picked up one first down. You know, they've run a play. They got a quick slant for 11 yards. You're still in your own 36-yard line. You still got a long ways to go, but you've made that first step on your drive, and you've gotten that first down, which a lot of times is the hardest first down to pick up on a drive, because once you start getting some momentum, things will become a lot easier. And where you can start picking up momentum is through spring ball, through summer workouts, and then fall camp starts, and you want to be on the other side of the 50, because you don't want too much work for yourself to have to do to go get a touchdown. Whenever fall camp starts, if you're following my analogy here, but you want to at least be in a position where you can continue that drive into fall and make all that hard work that you've done on your own side of the 50 pay off as you get towards the red zone.
You don't want any penalties to back you up. You don't want spring to make it 1st and 15 or 1st and 20.
Yes.
If we're going along with this analogy here, T.O. left the ball in field goal range easily for you for Frank. Frank made some field goals, had some touchdowns. I think Bo set up the Riley era in scoring position. They were well inside the 30. They were just trying to get that conference championship. And it went the other way aside from the 9-4 season.
Well, yeah, with Bo, he got set up at like probably the 35, the 40, realistically, or pretty close to scoring. You had some development you've got to do. That's picking up that first or second first down. And I think when you look at Bo Pelini's tenure as a whole, he got that ball inside the 5, inside the 10 a couple times, if we're talking about conference championships, but then he kept on fumbling or turnover on downs, missed a chip shot field goal. That was the Bo Pelini tenure. And then you get Mike Riley around his new offense, it's going to finally be able to punch that ball inside the 10, but the problem was he couldn't get inside the 10 to begin with just all the issues with physicality and whatnot. You were stuck on your own side of the field. This is a fun analogy, to be 100% honest with you.
It is good. And right now, you're trying to get to midfield with Coach Rhule and where things stand right now. Let's hear a little bit from Coach Rhule and specifically the chemistry build, cut 4 here. Actually, hold on, check that. Let's go first impressions. Let's go cut 5 here. First impressions of his team as they gear up for spring football.
Well, I know that they're good young men. They work hard and they try to do what we ask them to do. All the things we're doing right now really aren't football. We do some football movements, some walkthroughs, some meetings. They've made some, they've acquiesced and allowed some things to happen now. So we're trying to do those things, and the guys are learning the systems. But what we're trying to do right now is build mental and physical toughness, trying to build strength and mobility, trying to build a sense of brotherhood, trying to build confidence. When you do a lot of hard things, you start to have a little bit of confidence about you, like, hey, you know what, I can do that, So we're trying to build those things. Those guys have done that. Now the next transition, the next step is to go play football and see if any of it carries over.
That's it. And he wants it done a certain way. He wants it done his way. He wants the coaches to do it his way. And it's honestly one lock step together. And that's all right. That's pretty hands-on. That's pretty controlling. But guess what? You need it. And that's how Saban runs his show. That's how Dabo runs his show. That's how Kirby runs his show. So all of those are important. This will transition us to what Bruce Feldman laid out in his list of top 25 coaches, Elijah. And in it, number 1 is Nick Saban. In it, 2 is Kirby Smart. In it, 3, Dabo. Harbaugh comes in at 4. And not far down this list is Matt Rhule. He's been out for a couple of years, and he comes in at number 15. Too high, too low, just right. Let's play that game for just a second. And listen, he's an absolute favorite of many members of the national media. Not only has he been accessible to them, but it's really cool when a national media member writes how great you are, and then you do a good job, okay? Because national guys don't like to anoint somebody and then go, man, we whiffed on that. Don't know who I'm thinking of here, but they don't like egg on their face, pretty much. But Rhule comes in at 15, and that's behind the likes of James Franklin and Ryan Day, Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly. Whittingham gets a ton of respect. Lance Leipold comes in at number 10. And what he did at Kansas last year, I know they finished 6-7. Super impressive. Luke Fickell's been to a playoff. Clausen quietly kicking ass at Wake Forest. Chris Kleiman has been nice. Won a conference title. Chip Kelly has really rebounded. And listen, Matt Rhule comes in. They aren't detracting from what happened to the NFL, but it's very, very fair to say the NFL's an apple, college football's an orange, and you're back to a comfort level and specifically with what you did, what was there after you left when a competent guy like Dave Aranda took over after you left and went to a Sugar Bowl. So the thing here that is the match for Nebraska, if we talk match game, is being tough, is being physical, is being able to have an eye for talent, but also yet recruit nationally, and then have that ability to find and develop talent, and then have a niche which is going to be speed and toughness for Nebraska. And they say that is what Rhule is top-notch at, is his ability to develop. That is music to Nebraska fans' ears, because people have been able to do it in the past through development, and you really get a good kid and you make him a really good football player. You put that combo together, that's your winning formula for Nebraska.
But my one concern with Matt Rhule being at 15 is I feel like it's being a little bit of prisoner of the moment with him coming to Nebraska in ways that he's never coached in college football in the NIL era. Now, based on what we've seen early, I don't think that's going to be a problem, but there's still some things that we haven't seen him have to adjust for yet in college football. So I think it's a little early to put him ahead of the likes of Kellen DeBoer and Josh Heupel and all these guys that are currently behind him on the list. Those guys have adapted to the new college football. How is Matt Rhule going to be able to do that? That still remains a question in my eyes.
I think he'll be all right. We'll get Jack Ebling's take on things, all Big Ten, as we wind it down here. Segment 1, Rosie's 10th and P down here for state basketball. It's Hail Varsity presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back here at Rosie's Hail Varsity Road Show on a Friday, 10th and P, where we're at. Platteview and York rocking and rolling. Mike Babcock is going to break something. Platteview looks like to be moving on to the state championship. Uncle Mark and Davis and Dixon, the nephews down from Gretna, to flex their dragon love. And one of my favorite people in the whole world, Grandma Rita, is here from Hayes Center. Not my grandma, but man, she's everybody's grandma. She's awesome. In Major League, right, they brought the KFC for Serrano. They would drink Jobu's rum. Okay, the sacrificing the live chicken and Jobu's rum helped put Cleveland past the Yankees in that playoff. Okay, every time the ball club during the summer, they'd need a big hit, and quite honestly, this is over the years of travel baseball. The team was struggling in a tournament, and Grandma Rita wasn't there. It was a break-in-case of emergency moment where we'd dial Grandma Rita up, we'd put her on speaker, and she has the loudest, most incredible voice, loud and raspy, and I mean that as a compliment, super distinctive. And she'd scream, rattle them bats, and all of a sudden you'd have a 12-run inning. Without fail. It was awesome. It was really good. So she's here. I think she's having a bush light. Good for her. Jack with us?
Yes, he is.
All right, hello. Jack Ebling, Big Ten insider, Mr. Michigan State, 6-time national award winner out of the state of Michigan. He is in Chicago. Big Ten basketball tournament. We'll hit some football with him as well. Jack, thanks for jumping on. What the heck happened to Sparty, bud?
Well, it isn't who's in Chicago, Chris. It's who's not in Chicago. And there are a lot of teams that thought they would be here, playing maybe Saturday, maybe even Sunday, and now they're going to be home, and they're going to be watching teams like Ohio State. Never saw that coming. Wisconsin certainly didn't. Iowa didn't. Michigan State didn't today, and the Spartans picked a bad time to play a bad game.
Where do you think this puts Michigan State, Jack, as far as Sunday goes, seeding-wise?
I think if they had won today and played respectably tomorrow, they still had a chance at 6th line. Now that's not going to happen, and maybe a 7 or an 8, even an 8. So that means you have to play a 9 and then a 1 to get out of the first weekend. So that's kind of a daunting task. But hey, Michigan State didn't deserve it. Had a chance. Everything was set up today. Playing an Ohio State team without its best player, and Michigan State was outscored by 21 points outside the arc. And when you do that in a 10-point game, Chris, that's a recipe for defeat.
Jack, what do you make of just the Big Ten as a whole right now as we look at what's going down on Friday? Rutgers gave Purdue everything they could handle a little bit earlier today, and then we see Michigan State get upset by Ohio State. And we've kind of said this all year long. There's a lot of parity in the middle of the Big Ten, but I'm not sure people thought there was this much parity.
Yeah, a lot of parity, a lot of exciting basketball. 15-point lead means nothing, but I think this is a low-ceiling, high-floor league. And anybody can beat anybody. It wouldn't shock me if we had a couple more upsets here. But it would shock me if we had more than one team in the Elite Eight, and I'm not even sure that's going to happen. So everybody judges by the NCAA tournament, guys. When you think about that, the Big Ten has had a couple of embarrassments the last few years. I think it's poised to have more with the most teams in the field. Have 9 teams in, but are going to have more than one beyond the second week, beyond the first weekend?
I don't know. I don't think so. And this is the year we're all going to sell stock, Jack, when it comes to Bracket Wednesday. And you watch you watch the Big Ten end up putting, 3 in the Elite Eight. We'll use your money, Jack, not mine, to put that future bet in. But Jack Ebling, Spartan and Big Ten insider with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Downtown here at Rosie's State Basketball Tournament going on. Of course, college basketball, this is the predecessor to the madness that is March next week. Jack, I want to get your take from afar on Fred Hoiberg and his season, his February, and are you buying stock in Nebraska basketball? Are you holding? Are you selling? What did this season show you?
Well, I've been buying stock in Fred Hoiberg for a long time because I know what kind of guy he is. It's going to take time. It's not done yet. This is a work in progress, but I think the future is bright for Nebraska basketball. And, yeah, they lose a couple of players, and I think that the way he coaches, he's going to have players who want to play for him. I think he's going to get a couple of leaders on this team to replace people who are departing, and I would think that Nebraska's going to be on the ascent, and I would be buying Nebraska basketball.
Jack, based on what you saw from Nebraska this year, and that includes that disappointing loss to Minnesota we just saw a couple nights ago in the first round of the Big Ten tourney, what do you still think that this Fred Hoiberg squad needs to be able to find success in the Big Ten? A lot of Husker fans were expecting the success to come a lot sooner with Fred Hoiberg, and there's been some errors in roster construction. Nebraska hasn't always been able to compete with the physicality of the Big Ten, but based on what you've seen, what is still needed from Fred Hoiberg in this squad?
Well, this is going to sound funny because everybody has injuries, but I don't think Nebraska had very good luck in that department this year. And, I'm going to contradict myself because I just talked about this league being mediocre, but there are no soft touches in this league. And some people thought, well, Nebraska would be one for a long time. I don't see that happening, and I see Nebraska working its way up to respectability, and it's going to be in the middle of the pack before we know it. I can't give you a year when I think Nebraska's going to be playing in the Big Ten championship game. But I could say that about a lot of teams here. Michigan State has been in that game 7 times, and if you talk to Spartan fans right now, they wonder if they're ever going to win again.
Jack Ebling with us, Spartan and Big Ten insider, Hail Varsity Radio down here. Rosie's downtown, 10th and P. Jack, we are going to get you back to Lincoln, and we're going to get you down here to Rosie's before a football game.
Warming up here, and from the noise they're making, you'd think that they just won the Final Four. I'm going to try to relocate here.
No, you're fine.
Quickly.
You're fine, Jack. The ambiance is incredible. A loud United Center. That's something that we all want to hear, and it's not always the case till Championship Sunday. Jack going to go to football here, and we were just spending time on Nebraska football and where you think the ball is at. If you're staring at a football field, what yard line is Matt Rhule picking up this possession? Is he at the 50? Is he at his own 40? Is he inside his own goal line? What do you think he's inheriting with Nebraska football?
I think maybe he's around his own 40. I don't think he's over the hump yet, but I like his chances to get there. And when you look at the new coaches in the Big Ten West, I think those are some pretty good hires. And I think Nebraska's got a chance. They're going to be recruiting. Who knows? They might get the top high school quarterback in the country. And even if that does not happen, then I think that Matt Rhule is going to turn it around. I think we saw what he can do at the collegiate level. And people say, well, I didn't know I was working in the NFL. If you don't have a quarterback in the National Football League, you can just mail it in. So I think he's going to be in a great position. You can dictate your own talent a lot easier in college. I think you'll have a great staff there. We know what the fan base is. The necessary elements to win are all there in Lincoln.
Jack, you're a guy who's been witnessing the rebuild of Michigan State under Mel Tucker, and you got to see a phenomenal year one, bit of a step back in year two from Mel Tucker, but I want to get your take on just how important it is to find success in year one in terms of a long-term build of a program. Nebraska hasn't been to a bowl game in a long time, and I think that's an expectation from a lot of Husker fans in year one for Matt Rhule. Just make a bowl game, get us playing somewhere meaningful following the regular season, and we'll see if he can live up to that. But how important is year one in your eyes in the grand scheme of a rebuild?
Yeah, and I hope the fans there give him enough time to do it. Nebraska fans, I think, certainly frustrated. They've been used to incredible success going way back, and they're impatient like every other group. But I think they have to see positive trends. So I would think that, if they're just a little bit patient and give him a chance to get his system in, get his players in, I really like their chances to do something significant.
Jack, where is Michigan State football? What's the vibe and mindset? Where are they in the West? 11-2 is incredible. Last year wasn't 11-2. No, and they were not an 11-2 team. They finished 11-2, but they had Kenneth Walker and they won the winnable games. Last year they did not have Kenneth Walker. And they had every conceivable injury you could have. They had more injuries in the first 3 weeks of the season last year than they had the previous season. And you guys know when you don't have depth, suddenly that really matters in the Big Ten. And if you're playing a decent non-conference schedule, you can't go out and play the Washington Huskies in Seattle if your best defensive back, your best linebacker, and your best D linemen are out. So I would think that Michigan State probably a little bit better than the 5-7 team. But guys, this is just the reality of playing in the Big Ten, especially the Big Ten East. Michigan State's going to be the only team in the country next year that will be playing 4 top 10 teams. That's Washington, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. 3 of the 4 will be in East Lansing, but nonetheless, let's say you go 1-3 in those games. That means the best you can do is 9-3. And when you've been 11-2, people say, well, why can't you do that every year? Jack, we're going to keep you for about 3 or 4 minutes on the other side. We're up against a hard break. Can you hang on? Can you do that? Is that all right? I'm putting you on the spot.
Sure. Yeah, we're good.
Be sure to find Jack Ebling on Twitter, at Jack Ebling, 6-time award winner for the Sportscaster and Writer of the Year in the state of Michigan. Not only with those magic fingers, but the golden tones, writing and radio. That's right, man. He is awesome, and he is hanging out in Chicago. We're going to make sure he gets a filet at Gibson's later. Hail Varsity continues. We're down here at Rosie's, 10th and P, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're presented by Currency down here at Rosie's. Boys State Basketball 2023 Rosie's 10th and P, come see us as we are gearing you up for the semis tonight and championship Saturday tomorrow. The great Hall of Fame writer, broadcaster Jack Ebling, Big Ten insider, Michigan State insider with us here from Chicago. Jack, I wanted to ask you about your time covering Saban real quick at Michigan State and that experience. I've had friends that have worked for Coach Saban down at Alabama. We've seen what he's done in Tuscaloosa, but he was pretty salty at Michigan State when he came to Lincoln many years ago, and I'm salty as a compliment. He had that team playing well. Do we have Jack?
I thought we did.
Okay.
Apparently not. I'll get him back on the line here.
Okay. That would be good. So we will reconnect with Jack Ebling. He is in Chicago. He may have had his phone stripped from him. We have Jack Ebling back. Jack, we got you. Thanks for jumping back on. You got us?
No problem.
All right. I was asking you, and I asked just my producer and co-host Elijah, how about old Saban at Michigan State? Do you have a favorite Saban Michigan State memory or story? We've seen him obviously go to LSU, go to the NFL, come back from the NFL, and do great things at Alabama. But I remember some of those Michigan State teams. He had he really had some wow wins when he was with Michigan State.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of my favorites involves Nebraska. His first game with the Spartans in 1995, Cornhuskers put it on him pretty good, 50-10. And it was a Lawrence Phillips game. I don't think he had to take a shower. He got in trouble when he got home. Too much energy left. And then it was the next summer. And I was looking for a story, and I happened to be nosing around the football building, and Nick walked out. I said, hey, tell me one thing that's going to be different in 96. What's going to be new about this team? He says, I'll tell you one thing. We're not going to lose by 40 points to Nebraska. We lost by 41. Lost 55-14. So he was right technically, but it was one more point on the wrong side of the ledger.
Jack, we ask about Nick Saban because Bruce Feldman recently ranked him atop the national list of college football coaches in America, and I don't think you'll find many who'll argue with that. I think Kirby Smart is closing the gap, but it's still Nick Saban at 1. Coming at number 4 is a guy that you've seen at least somewhat up close and personal in Jim Harbaugh. I want to get your take on the rise of Michigan football in the last couple years and also the challenges it presents Mel Tucker and Sparty.
Wow, who did this list?
Bruce Feldman.
Well, I have a lot of respect for Bruce, but I know he likes Jim Harbaugh. I think Michigan has won in spite of Jim Harbaugh to a significant degree. You look at Jim Harbaugh's record in bowls. He has won 1. He's been there 8 years. If you look at his record against Ohio State, he's won 2, less than 30%. If you look at him against his in-state rival, he's 4-4, and he's been upset 4 times, been favored in all 8 of those games. And I can't recall a single game where I can say Jim Harbaugh made the difference.
Very fair take with the numbers backing that. Matt Rhule comes in at 15 on that list of the top 25 coaches in college football heading into 2023. What do you think, Jack, with Rhule coming in at 15?
Well, I can't judge who's right ahead of him and who's right behind him, but he's certainly one of the best coaches in the country, so certainly deserves to be in that discussion. And Nebraska fans, when he wins a game, they'll think he should be higher than that. He loses one, they'll think that doesn't belong on the list at all. So, that happens. It's part of being a fan. But I would think that Matt Rhule has a chance to Chris Rhule actually is an optometrist, I know. So Matt Rhule has a chance to do some terrific things in Lincoln. And when you look at Luke Fickell coming in, There's a big changeover at Purdue now, so that's going to be different. And I'm looking forward to what the West is going to look like. I guess it's still the West, right? Can we call it that for another year?
One more.
For a year. We get to rent the West for a year, and then who knows? Pods probably. Fickle is in at 11, according to Feldman. Chip Kelly right in front of Matt Rhule at 14. Kleiman at K-State 13. Kellen DeBoer, who was at Purdue, at Indiana, was great. He's in at 16. Yeah. Jimbo Fisher's at 17. So that's a pretty impressive ranking. Being out of college for a couple of years. Jack, we'll end it with this, and thanks so much for your time and giving us insight live from the Big Ten tournament and talking some hoops and football. Where does Jack Ebling go when he's in Chicago for dinner? Where's your favorite spot to hit? I know you want a steak.
Well, I'm on the seafood diet, as you can tell when you look at me. I'm eating everything I see. So, yeah, I like so many different kinds of foods, guys, that it's really not fair for me to point out one. Besides, others may become sponsors at some point. But I did find a hidden gem here the other night called Lizzie McGuire's. And I just want to put in a little plug for that one. But, I mean, you know all the biggies here. And certainly Chicago is blessed when it comes to restaurants. You really can't go wrong.
Most famous person you've had dinner with?
Most famous person I've had Magic Johnson.
I was going to say I was going to either go. That would count. I was going to either go Magic or Izzo, and I think if you ask Magic or Izzo, they're going to say Jack Ebling.
Well, no, Michigan State lost today, so I can't say Tom Izzo.
Okay, I got you. Wow. Jack, you take care. Enjoy a return trip to Lizzie's or get that filet wherever you end up tonight, all right?
My favorite dinner is going to be the one I get from Chris Schmidt when next time I show up in Lincoln.
I have it set up for you. You're getting a big old, we'll say 2-inch thick Nebraska steak. How's that sound?
That'll work. That'll work just fine, Chris.
Jack, you take care, bud. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care, guys.
There is Jack Ebling with us, Michigan State and Big Ten insider.
We did miss a big food spot, though, that the Chicago Bears front office, they went for the Carolina barbecue buffet today as they went out and just absolutely landed a haul for that number 1 overall pick. That was during our interview with Jack. So the Bears would say that Carolina barbecue buffet is the best place in Chicago.
They are all in with the sauce, apparently. We'll see. We'll get more on that trade as the NFL draft is in Kansas City this year. And Carolina's smiling. And Chicago's, who knows if they keep moving back or not. They know who they want to go get. I think they like the Sikorsky kid out at Northwestern at tackle. Mm-hmm. And they can get him in that 5 to 10 range and make a big-time haul. We'll wind down this first hour as Hale Varsity is on the road. We are here at Rosie's, 10th and P. Big thanks to Jack Ebling. Bill Doleman's coming up. Also Brady Oltmans, Hale Varsity, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hale Varsity Radio.
So just giving you an update here as Chicago has moved out of their spot in the first round. Compensation update here. Bears trading the number 1 pick overall to Carolina for the 9th pick, the 61st pick, the first round selection of Chicago in 2024, a second rounder in 2025, and you have DJ Moore, who's an incredible wideout, is on his way to Chicago, and that's good stuff if you're a Bears fan. At least Danny Burke, our resident Bears fan, the pride of Chicago. I know Coach Smith, Jeff Smith, is high-fiving. He might even be doing the Super Bowl shuffle. And you and I both know like 40 Bears fans.
Oh, yeah.
We're surrounded by them.
Oh, yeah, and they've been in pain for the last couple of years with the Packers going and kicking their butts at every game for the past 10 years. So good for them. I think actually whenever I look at this trade objectively, it's a bit of a win-win here because Yeah, Carolina's given up a lot, but they get the quarterback of their choice for the future, whether it be Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, even Will Levis, who I don't think is as good as those first two I've listed, but some NFL scouts out there seem to think he's the future. Anthony Richardson, after a great combine performance, some people are saying, well, maybe he's got a little Josh Allen to him with the arm strength and the athleticism. So Carolina gets their choice of quarterback. I personally am of the opinion that it's going to be C.J. Stroud. I think he's the best quarterback in this year's draft, but that remains to be seen. Carolina gets the quarterback of their future. That's one of the big areas where they've needed to improve over the last couple of seasons. That's the big fault that Matt Rhule had there in Carolina. It's the fact that, well, he didn't have a quarterback. It's not going to be a problem moving forward for the Panthers. They get who they want. They're going to get to develop them how they want. If they screw them up, that's on them. They have the number 1 overall pick now. Just don't screw it up. As for the Bears, you get a number 1 wide receiving option for Justin Fields. You're still going to be able to go, as you said, go back and get an offensive lineman, which seems to be a big area of concern for this Bears team. You're still going to have a lot of picks available for you at 9 overall. That's what I think the best part about this year's first round is really from 5 until 25. There's not that much of a drop-off in talent. You're in a great spot in between 5 and 25, at least in my opinion. And they're going to have their choice of who they want to get. And not to mention the fact that they've now banked a first-round pick for next year. That's the one thing that concerns me from Carolina's side is you've gone and lost your first-round pick next year, but you got the number 1 overall pick. That's going to take multiple first-round picks, I think, as a bare minimum. The fact they're losing 2 in a row is going to sting, but you're getting your quarterback of the future.
Well, we go back to Rhule at his time in the NFL. He had Dwight Schrute under center and Teddy Bridgewater, and then they ended up getting Baker Mayfield. All right. End of discussion. Period. He didn't have a quarterback. Jack Ebling accurately pointed that out. And now Carolina's going a different direction.
The main thing, as I said, that is going to hurt them,
and this
though,
is post Cam Newton, too. I mean, Cam Newton had good years in Carolina.
Yeah, no, that's the main concern with the Panthers to me in this trade is just what does your rookie quarterback look like next season? Because you could still end up realistically getting a top 5 pick even with your chosen 1 quarterback. So losing that to the Bears would, I think, sting for Panthers fans, but at the end of the day, you're not going to win the NFL without a quarterback, and they say this is their best chance to get a franchise-changing quarterback, potentially the face of your franchise. I don't hate it for either side. The Bears, with this trade, are saying they think they have it in Justin Fields. Now it's built around him. They've made the best deal to be able to go do that, and the Panthers have made the best deal to be able to go and get themselves a face of the franchise-type quarterback. So realistically, it's a trade to me that could work out for both sides.
Well, bear down that the email from Coach Jeff Smith. Reminder to get buckled up, hands on the wheel, eyes in mind. Straight ahead, the driver. One job, that's to drive a message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Bill Doleman on the way.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you, it's hour 2 down here at Rosie's 10th and P. A great contingent from Hayes Center to Beatrice to, well, we'll just say Scott over to the east. And Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, the professor. Is it driver's ed time, cowboy? Are you just making an exception for us before you go get the old spring break tan on? How are you?
People are walking around my truck wanting to know why I have my seatbelt on while my truck is parked. But you just said before break, I think it was, I better click it or I get a ticket. So I wanted to be nice and safe for everybody to let them know that that's what I do on this very important Friday afternoon.
So you're not driving and doing the interview. You are parked.
No, I'm not. Just to be clear, no, I'm not.
I actually saw this interview with the UFC fighter. He just lost over the weekend, so I was watching his interview. He hopped on a podcast, and he had like this full-on like gamer's headset on while he's driving down the interstate, getting back home. Like, it was one of the craziest things ever. And I guess I go, well, whenever you're driving on the interstate, you got the headset on. You don't have to focus on the interview, but it's still just something about it seemed a little off.
Well, better that than perhaps a virtual reality headset while driving down the road. That would be bad.
It would be. Bill, a lot to get to. Some football as spring football's around the corner. It's basketball time. March is here. And give me a grade for Nebraska basketball and Fred Hoiberg. They're hoping some teams say, I'm good and don't take an NIT bid. That's Michigan. That's Carolina. They're hoping 20% means 100%. Maybe Fred's on the or Trev's on the phone right now. I don't know, but their shot to play postseason ball took a monster hit, obviously, against Minnesota. But give me a grade. What do you think? Body of work.
Well, body of work, because you sack punched Iowa twice in one season. That's good enough for me. That's an A, okay? And you get extra credit for what you did to Creighton back in December. So, to me, this has been a great season. The loss to Minnesota was not good, right? You win that, and I think there's no question about it that Nebraska's in. But you want to finish strong. And if you take a look at that final chapter of the season from November to December to January to February and disregard maybe the Minnesota game, Nebraska had a great February. And what Fred Hoiberg did, turning the season around from perhaps a D plus then you've got the injuries, to doing what they did in February and exciting the crowds and people talking about this being a successful season. It's a C plus B minus, probably a B minus if they'd beaten Minnesota. But given the two injuries and when they occurred and what those two guys meant to the team and the way they adjusted the game and averaging 70 plus points the last 6 weeks of the season, that's a fun team to watch. I think people, for the most part, will look back on how they really did finish, and will think this was an enjoyable Nebraska basketball season. It wasn't a great month of January, that's for sure, but February was a lot of fun.
Bill, I think there's a difference between a Husker basketball season being enjoyable and a Husker basketball season being successful. And if Nebraska misses out on the NIT, going and getting postseason work in, can you consider this season a success?
Yes, why not? Just because I said so, okay? People went to PBA in droves, 14,000 people watching a team that at times didn't play very well. They got their suds on. You beat Iowa twice. You beat Creighton. I mean, I think what Fred did in turning things around when they had to, when it could have been an absolute disaster, right? And I think people, the way they finished, it's successful. Given what the conversation was a year ago, Fred can't stay. Got to get rid of the guy. I mean, just get rid of the program practically to where we are now and hoping to get into the NIT. I think it's been a successful turnaround season, at least for Fred Hoiberg. And I think there's promise for next year.
Bill Doleman's with us, Hail Varsity Radio down here at Rosie's, 10th and P, ahead of state basketball. The night sessions, the A semifinals going on. Gretna in action, Millard North in action, Bell West and West Side at PBA. The Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman off to Sunshine and probably some recruiting. You're going to scout. I like it. We'll go to the big picture of basketball with Fred. And listen, he's back. He knows the blueprint of what it's going to take in the Big Ten. Do you feel confident he can find two replacements for a guy like Walker and a guy like Griesel? Because he'll need that on top of what's developed. Some of the young guys that have played and got better as the year went on, they're going to have to up their game a little bit or a lot. And then who knows about Tominaga, if he goes or stays. I think he's probably gone. I have no inside info on that, but money talks, and there you go. But can he get it rekindled here? Because he's not alone in having roster resets every year, but that's kind of been his MO with Nebraska until they finally found at least what the formula is. The style, anyway, the mentality.
in this era of college basketball and so much transition, I think that you might see 4 or 5 new guys come in for next season. Maybe one of them, maybe 2 of them will fulfill those roles that you're talking about with Walker and Griesel. Maybe there are guys in the program right now. 8 weeks ago, Sam Hoiberg was a glorified student manager for the most part, and he goes on to be a February star and turned in maybe the play of the year with that steal in the bucket. What was that, against Maryland? So there might be some guys in that program already. Lloyd, the point guard, they're very high on him. Jamarcus Lawrence, the second half of the season, grew into a terrific Big Ten player. If they do make that adjustment to the NIL, that players from overseas, international players, can make some money, then I would bet that Tokunaga might stay, and play another year, because I think he would do quite handsomely after what he's done this year. He's beloved in Lincoln, and he may never have another experience like this, certainly in the States. Maybe back home in Japan he will. But if there's a way for him to make some money, then I think you're looking at him coming back. And but I think in the era of college basketball we're in, I think you can see 4, 5, maybe 6 new guys coming in with his team. And Fred is, this year of any of his seasons, has shown that he can adapt and adjust things on the fly. And maybe that's what he has to do next year: get the people in, figure out what they can do, and by the time conference play rolls around, you've got a pretty solid basketball team. Because you can win in the Big Ten. That's proof this year with all those teams that were 10-10 basically.
Bill Doleman's with us here. It's Hail Varsity Radio. And Bill, if you don't mind, let's switch gears here, talk some football. And I want to get your take on what's been going down the last week within the Husker football program. It's been commitment week, and I know that word commitment could get your blood pressure up a little bit, Bill, but it's not recruiting, as we're going to be talking just about this end of winter conditioning. We had Matt Rhule on the Husker Radio Network last night kind of talking about what awaits him in spring ball. But when you look at commitment week, it's been some sort of arduous team activity in the morning, followed by a team bonding activity in the afternoon, and then we also had the Husker Olympics a couple days ago. I want to get your take on that. Was there anything like that during the Tom Osborne years, all the years you spent around the football program? Do you remember some sort of week like this that seemed to be more about team bonding than it was about actually putting the work in, even though these guys are putting in work?
I certainly don't remember it as high a profile thing. I know they had, watermelon feeds and barbecues and tug of war, competitions and those kinds of things. And then the team bonding did a lot during the course of the summer, when they had to do things by themselves and were accountable to each other. But, this is certainly much more high profile because of the incredible job that creative staff has done in putting out little snippets on social media where fans get an inside look and a backstage look and the kind of look that they want you to see, so that people are excited about the things that they're doing. So, Nebraska you always have to do things to get the team together. But in this multimedia era and the social media era, it's just a little more high profile. And let's face it, he sounds like the preacher's son, but he also sounds like he's the son of a salesman, because that guy knows how to market Matt Rhule and market his concepts and to get people, fans excited, recruits excited. I think the players have bought in, the ones that I've been around. I think this has been such a feel-good period of time for Nebraska football, given what we've been through for the last 2 decades. So Rhule's done a terrific job in not just team bonding, but getting the state of Nebraska and all of the Husker fans to bond around what they're doing. It's been fun. There's no question that it has been fun, and I think it has been mission accomplished for the most part.
Bill, the Oscars are this weekend. One of the crimes of all of the Oscars was 1984, where no nomination or win was bestowed upon Revenge of the Nerds. I look at this Husker Olympics and I think of Revenge of the Nerds, and I think of the battle between Delta and Alpha with the activities, the Greek Olympics they had to do. Give me your top 3 Husker draft picks if you were to reenact that scene in Revenge of the Nerds with all of the activities, be it the javelin, the Trojan horse.
I'm not going there.
I meant arm strength. or the Trojan horse And I don't know who is musically inclined, a la the stage and Poindexter on the violin.
Hey, I'm going Teddy Prohaska. Just because I've gotten to know him this semester. He's my guy in any event that I need him to perform in. I think he can come through for the Tri-Lambs. Arm strength, that's a really good question. I'm hoping it would be Jeff Sims. I'm a little nervous when the head football coach says, I think my toughest guy specialist is the punter. And the fastest guys in the team are your 4th and 5th team quarterbacks. That might be a little bit concerning if Trey Palmer goes away and Heinrich Harburg is now the fastest guy in the team. So I'm a little nervous about that. So hopefully Gilbert and Lewis can come through with the pep talk to get the right guys motivated. I do want to say one thing before I go today, because this is, as I think people know, a milestone, historic night in Nebraska basketball history. And I know a lot of people gathered at Rosie's thinking I was going to be there, but it was on this night, and I think people know this, and ESPN's probably going to do a 30 for 30 on it, that 40 years ago, somebody stepped to the free throw line at the Bob Devaney Sports Center and became one of the most prolific free throw shooters in the history of the Devaney Center, setting a record that will never be topped in dropping down a perfect night from the line to boost a stay in front win over O'Neill in the first round of the Class B State High School Basketball Championships. I don't want to brag too much, but, I know people are talking about it, and I want to acknowledge that milestone.
There are a lot of Doleman jerseys floating around here at Rosie's. What did you do at the line that night?
2 pressure-packed free throws.
What was the
Drained
score?
them. 1,000%, okay? Nobody is ever going to top that in Bob Devaney Sports Center history from the free throw line, okay? It doesn't get any better than
behind
perfect.
For you to get in?
What's that?
Were you ahead or behind to get in?
Look, if I don't drain those free throws, who knows what kind of momentum could have been generated by O'Neill.
Overs don't hit.
Well, if I don't make those free throws, maybe we don't win 89-56, okay? But I got to the line. I did what I was supposed to do. I was asked, and I nailed them. Pressure, perfect.
Has Fred Hoiberg had you down to talk with the team yet to improve their free throw shooting? That was an issue all year long, and they have such a great resource on campus.
Call me. That's, just give me a buzz. Look, that's why one of the reasons Calvin Murphy and I got along so well, 98% free throw shooter or whatever he was, and we'd sit there and we'd talk. Rockets games going on. We talk free throw shooting, He's a Hall of Famer, and I was perfect at the line. But I know you guys have been talking about it, and I just want to acknowledge, 40 years ago tonight, Bob Devaney Sports Center, history was made. Perfection at the free throw line in an 89-56 win over O'Neill. JEFFS, Jeff Saar, the very best.
The Pride of Fairbury.
A legend.
At the Devaney Center. Ice. Follow through, and he just let it hang. Just let it hang. Where are you going?
It was like
Daytona?
Jordan over Russell. Well, I'm going down to Florida for spring break. Going to party like it's 1989. See if Martha Quinn and Jules Asner, Tabitha Soren are still down there. And, we'll see if they're still playing Funky Cole Medina like they were, along with the Fine Young Cannibals. I'm going to see if my buddy Boozer Bob Frankel join me.
That'll be awesome. Bill Doleman is going on spring break. What worked for me 22 years ago was before the advent of digital cameras, you had the Kodak disposable cameras, and just tell them you're Howard Stern's intern. It was wonderful.
What I forgot was my pen rods on the beach mug that, you could put about 5 cents worth of beer in it. Was about that much. So that anyway. Yeah.
Doleman, make sure you get oiled up and don't come back with a horrible sunburn. Bill Doleman with us.
Just hoping I come back.
Yeah. Bill, you take care. Thanks for jumping in.
All right. Free throws. Perfect.
There he is. Go Big Red, says Bill Doleman. Brady Oltmans going to join us. Hail Varsity from Rosie's continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Hail Varsity Roadshow Friday here at Rosie's 10th and P in front of the night session for Boys State. The semis going on. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Big thanks to Bill Doleman and Jack Ebling. We say hi to Brady Oltmans. HailVarsity.com and magazine. Get that subscription today. Bundle the digital and print. HailVarsity.com/offer. Get you a sweet little discount. Brady, you're hunkered down, man. Awesome content per the usual this week. We're not far from spring ball. Are you headed to spring break? Are you and Archie taking off anywhere?
Probably not going too far. We're going to bounce around Omaha, Crete, for some Doan baseball next week when they host their home opener. And I think we might, flirting with getting down to Kansas City maybe, but that's about as far as we're going to go for spring break.
That works well. We were talking about Coach Rhule, where he came in and the coaches ranking, and also Nebraska football, where the school ranks per the Athletics recruiting potential. Let's just stick with Big Ten. What do you think about Nebraska's recruiting potential? Where do you view it? Do you view it as awesome because of who's going to be on the trail? Or do you look at it, okay, it's in the middle of a state that's getting super competitive on a national scene with talent, and then that 500-mile radius we know Nebraska's been good with over the years?
Well, right away, this coaching staff has so much momentum behind it, and they're aggressive recruiters, as we've kind of talked about, ad nauseum for 3 months now. They go after it, and I don't see them taking the foot off the gas by any stretch of the imagination. And then you introduce the 2 LA schools in 2024, and then you've got a full, coast to coast subscriber base going on with high school kids watching Big Ten football. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how the rest of the Big Ten falls out. Obviously, Ohio State and Michigan are going to be premier brand names out there. Who knows what Michigan State does? James Franklin and Penn State I think he's got that, perennial top 10 now going on. But then, Wisconsin's interesting to me just because of Luke Fickell and, the coaching change there. But I'm also it's going to take a little bit for that to get going, because Phil Longo coming in, he runs a North Carolina offense that you plug and play the Wisconsin players from last year into that. I don't think you're getting as successful as a lot of people think they will right away. So there's a lot of the new across the entire Big Ten gets a lot of recruits excited, but very few of those new coaches and shuffles in the Big Ten come with immediate NFL experience like this Rhule staff does.
Brady, how advantageous do you think it is for Nebraska, Matt Rhule, trying to build a new program, rebuild a new program, that Nebraska still does have one more year in the Big Ten West? The fact that they're going up against an Iowa team that's been in some turmoil. Purdue's got a new head coach. You mentioned Wisconsin with a new head coach. Really, it feels like the only team that feels like they're going to be returning some guys, and you kind of know what to expect, is Illinois. And even then, Illinois, I don't want to look down upon them, but they're not known as a football power. So how advantageous is it that Matt Rhule gets his first year in the final year of the Big Ten West before the Big Ten eventually goes to some sort of pod system?
I think it helps. I think he might, a common person might prefer this last year's schedule to this upcoming schedule. I mean, your crossover games are a little bit more stout in 2023 than they were in 2024 in terms of you get, Michigan or Indiana and Rutgers last year, whereas this upcoming season you get Michigan State and Maryland thrown in there too. And Maryland's on the upswing, you think. But I think it certainly helps, especially when you don't really know what the schedule is going to look like beyond 2023. And perennially, Matt Rhule's first year at college programs have it's taken a little bit, but I do think, and I think we've talked about this before and all agree, Nebraska's in a much better spot year one than Temple or Baylor were when Matt Rhule took over. So it's a little bit more prime for immediate success. And based upon how close this team was for years coming into it, I think it it makes you kind of marinate on that a little bit more and think that maybe immediate success is a possibility.
And Brady, from a recruiting point of view, how important is it to find success in year one in order to build momentum? You kind of see Michigan State, you thought they would have built a lot of momentum in year one, and we talked about this with Jack Ebling, took a bit of a step back in year two, and part of that was a more difficult schedule. But how important, from a recruiting point of view, is it that Nebraska builds some momentum in year one and get some wins under the belt?
I don't know if it immediately matters, because you can sell kids on the vision. I mean, as long, like the golden rule, I guess, and I learned from covering the coaching search, and now with Matt Rhule is kind of even mentioned, the trouble is getting kids up to Lincoln. Once you get them on campus, you show them, the pageantry, the history, the fans, everything, the new facilities, you put them in that position, and people think, oh, Lincoln isn't just, cornfields all over the place with a stadium that popped out of it. Like they can see themselves in it. And I think players these days kind of like the idea of being a part of a turnaround program. They like to see themselves of like, hey, I can contribute to that turnaround. But also when you get the top quarterback in the country also looking and visiting, I think people want to be a part of that too. So immediate success, I think it matters, but I wouldn't say that it's imperative for Rhule to kind of get the ball rolling and get bowl eligible to build recruits on year one.
Brady Oltmans with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine at Brady Oltmans on Twitter. We're down here at Rosie's, 10th and P, getting you cranked up for state boys basketball, the semifinals. Okay, Matt Rhule either was hungry for barbecue or has got the itch to go hit the Kansas City Metro. I think both, but Nebraska's done well historically, from the John Garrisons to the Malik Collinses to the Brendan Kennys of the world just in the last 10 to 15 years. Can Nebraska get back and flex, Brady, not only in Kansas City, but also Missouri? Because that state's really been good to Nebraska. You include Kansas City with Missouri, but the state overall beyond Kansas City for Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the Texas connections, but really this coaching staff has connections all over. Even on Wednesday, Rhule and I think EJ Barthel, Rob Dvorak, and I want to say there's one other assistant, but I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, went and spoke to the Kansas City Coaches Convention or Greater Kansas City Football Coaches Convention on Wednesday. And that's a great thing that they like to do. They like to reach out to these coaches associations and get to know guys, get to know different football coaches. And that's they made a living in Texas doing that. They kind of want to do that in the Midwest as well. And it helps when you get like Williams Nwari is an incredible athlete out of Lee Summit in Greater Kansas City. And then they just are trying really hard to get Ryan Wingo, probably the best athlete or the best recruit, I should say, out of St. Louis area. So you've got the best recruit out of Kansas City and the best athlete out of St. Louis. And then you throw in Andrew Sprague from Rockhurst, which is, I guess, in the Kansas side of Kansas City. But you can put the top two guys out of Kansas City, best guy out of St. Louis. They want to bring them all for the VIP Junior Day later this month. And when you go after the top guys, people want to follow that success. And I think it's also kind of an indictment of Rhule's coaching staff that they're so aggressive. They're not afraid to go after the top guy and try to get him.
Brady, how VIP do you think that recruiting weekend later in March is going to be? We were hitting yesterday on the Arch Manning visit to Texas that sold him, where they're spending over $300,000 on a weekend for 9 recruits, giving them what they call the full Texas experience and really rolling out the red carpet. Can we expect something similar from Nebraska later in March, or is that not Matt Rhule's style?
I don't think that's really his style. I kind of chuckle at the VIP point, because at this point it's almost like a Costco membership, where really you just kind of, it's the VIP thing is more by title only. But it's one thing that I think Damon Benning and I kind of talked about on Monday on his show, was like this. They're willing to just keep the doors open, and if somebody wants to come into practice, like Ashton from Elkhorn South, he came in this last week and just like showed up, for a weekday visit, just out of nowhere, and they didn't roll out the red carpet. They didn't have the big lights and everything turned on for him. And even Rhule has said, come invite kids to spring ball and spring practice. Show them what it's like, and if they can see themselves getting better and playing in Matt Rhule's system and in practice, all for it. Some kids, it's not for them. By all means, they wish them the best. If it's not at Nebraska, so be it. So that's just kind of the Rhule mindset and how they're approaching recruiting. But obviously, I don't exactly know logistically what it's going to look like, but this is a huge recruiting weekend, the likes of which Nebraska recruiting hasn't seen possibly ever.
25th will be huge. Want to get your take here, a couple of minutes left. What's your gauge here on and we don't have the air raid silent ready yet, but Dylan Raiola. The USC-Nebraska arm wrestling match. Since it is Oscars weekend, I reference Revenge of the Nerds with Doleman. I'll reference Over the Top with you. And, I don't know if Nebraska's Stallone in this or not, if the hat's backward or not, but it seems like USC's picked up some momentum.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop the truck stop. This 18-wheeler is going to keep on rolling with that reference. But I don't see him doing any sort of commitment or any sort of decision before he takes all of his visits. And kind of the latest thing, we know he definitely wanted to visit Oregon after all, and it sounds like he's going to end up visiting Oregon at the end of April. So I'd be extremely surprised if he makes any sort of commitment through April. Expect him kind of maybe a May commitment again. Who knows what he's going to be looking at in terms of spring game. There's a possibility, I guess, timing-wise, that he is in Lincoln for Nebraska spring game because it is about the week before Oregon spring game. But none of that's confirmed. That's just kind of up in the air as a possibility. So that's kind of what it's looking like right now. Just about two more months of long waiting for Husker fans to decide if this is actually going to happen and they get on grade, the best recruit that Nebraska football's ever got.
Well, not only is it Husker fans waiting, Brady, I feel like there's also a lot of top recruits around the country waiting for a decision of a guy like Dylan Raiola, too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a reason why. So I think a big part of getting Dylan Raiola in for that VIP media or junior day is having all those guys, the 5 stars, the 4 stars that want to be a part of it. And you've got even, guys like Davon Hall who have said like, hey, Dylan, hit me up and have my phone number and we talk, we text. Like he's a guy that kind of, you gravitate towards a guy like that, and kids want to play with a guy like that. So I think that definitely there's a little bit of groundswell there. I'm sure that that's happening at Georgia and USC all over the place, but at Nebraska, that's just there's a kind of momentum there that Nebraska typically doesn't see.
Brady, enjoy your weekend. We'll get caught up again. Thanks for squeezing us in today. Always appreciate you, man.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
All right, there he is. Brady Oltmans, hunkered down, talking ball with us here on Hail Varsity, here at Rosie's, 10th and P.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity live at Rosie's. 10th and P ahead of state basketball, the semis tonight. The championship Saturday commences. All your coverage, all your info. Jacob Padilla's got it with HailVarsity.com and magazine at Jacob Padilla _. He is courtside at PBA. We've got a large contingent of the Metro in here. We've got our friends from Beatrice in here. Hayes Center out in full force. They're a little bummed about earlier today. And big thanks to Jacob for making time. Jacob, how we doing? How's the day treated you?
Pretty good. We got some pretty good games so far. Then we got a blowout, although that blowout included a pretty special performance that was fun to watch. So we got a little bit of everything so far here today. Got a near shot at the buzzer that could have tied a game that got a race from the weak side in that Scott game. So fun start to the day so far.
It was a ton of fun to watch, and things are shaping up. I want to get into tonight's matchup. You've seen the Metro all season long, and it was fun to talk about Lincoln getting to PBA. And right now you've got kind of your 4 big dogs that are poised again. Bell West, let's start there, and West Side. Thoughts on this matchup that gets going here shortly. And then tonight, of course, Gretna and Millard North. Pretty exciting couple of ball games tonight at PBA you'll be covering.
Yeah, the leap West Side made from the first meeting in the Metro Holiday Tournament to the final game of the regular season were phenomenal. They played W West closer than anybody has all season. had a chance to win that thing at the buzzer, and the shot didn't fall. They know they can do it. They know they can play with these guys. Now it's just a matter of coming out and executing and seeing if we can get another classic. I think the key will be for kind of the supporting cast. I know Ricky Lofton came up big in the quarterfinal win for Westside with 10 points off the bench. They get 10 points off the bench from him, in addition to what you can probably expect you're going to get from the starters. They got a chance to hang around, especially if maybe he outscores someone like a Steven Polacek, who hit some big shots for WS in that regular season finale win. And then we got a couple phenomenal guard play here with Caleb Benning and CJ Mitchell for Westside. Caleb's one of the best defenders in the state. We know how good Josiah Dotzler is. We know how good Jaden Jackson is. So it's going to be fun to watch those four kind of battle it out all night long.
Jacob, I'm glad you mentioned the regular season finale because Westside pushed Bellevue West harder than anybody this year in that regular season finale. And I want to get your take. Was that Bellevue West letting the foot off the gas, knowing they already had the 1 seed locked up and knowing that postseason was right around the corner, what they did in the finale wasn't going to be all that important? Or is that real? Was Westside really giving Bellevue West all they could handle in that game?
No, I think Bell West, they definitely showed up to play. Like I'm pretty sure they want this undefeated record. As far as they've gone, like, all right, let's just finish this thing off. They went in that game ready to play. And credit to Westside, they just made big plays. They played really well. I think Josiah Dotzler didn't have a great game. Maybe pressed a little bit, made took some tough shots, and I think that allowed Westside to kind of hang around. There's some foul trouble, some back and forth that changed the game a little bit too. So no, it's definitely a case more so of Westside elevating where they are and where they're playing down the stretch compared to the first half of the season, as opposed to Bellevue West just kind of letting their foot on the gas, I think.
Let's get your take on Gretna and Millard North. Gaith and company are very, very good. Gretna and Pekorski, Wilcoxon, I mean, that Southeast game was a lot of fun to do. And what a job by Gretna in winning time to seize that and hit some tough shots, specifically Pekorski. He is such a gamer, man. What do you see shaking out tonight? I'm not asking you to be weird with the prediction, but just what are a couple keys, I guess, for each squad here? How does Gretna move on to the title? How's Millard North get back there to try and three-peat?
Well, and how about that shot from Alex Wilcoxon? The only shot he made from the field of the game was that dagger three, where the ball comes to him, like, you can run some time off the clock. It's late. Nah, I'm letting this thing fly. I haven't hit one all day. Doesn't matter. That's the kind of confidence that kid plays with. And he knocked it down to really essentially seal that game for Breton. So, last time I saw these guys, another phenomenal game that went down to the stretch, and it was an Elijah Gath game winner. Elijah Gath game winner there to give Millard North the victory in their own gym. So it was pretty evenly matched game here, I think, between the two sides. The way they're playing down the stretch here, Gretna is just so tough. They make you work really hard with their different defenses, the way they kind of switch in and out of their zones, their mans, their pressure, their trapping. And Millard North, they've got some talented players. And the key really is, I think, Gath there. Like, if he's making good decisions, if he's making tough plays, then they're really hard to beat. That last week, he like 2 game winners in a row for Gretna, or for Millard North against Gretna, and then followed it up. I think against Papia South it was. Hit another game winner, put back at the buzzer to give him that one. And he's the kind of kid that can impact the game in a lot of different ways. He's a really good rebounding guard. He can score, and he can set up other guys. So if they can get really good decision making from him, and Neil Mosser knocking down shots, he was on fire in their quarterfinal win. That really is the key. When Mosser's hitting shots, that kind of opens up the floor for a guy like Derek Rollins to work in the post, for Gath to get downhill and score that way. So they're really tough to beat when Mosser's hitting. For Gretna, it is kind of the same thing. Like, Wilcoxon is hitting. He's a guy that's not afraid to let it fly from anywhere and I think the key will be Pokorski, his decision-making, and his efficiency inside the arc. He's a guy that will take a lot of tough shots. Then they'll have a chance to kind of score more often than not. And then it all starts with him. If he's going well, you really got to draw the defense, and that opens up the floor for a Jeff Roselle to go to work inside for those kick-out open threes for Wilcox in there. So I really am kind of looking at the point guard for each of these teams to kind of determine how the game's going to be played.
Jacob, last thought here, about 30 seconds. I know you got to get to the national anthem here in just a second, but among the teams playing tonight, which two do you think would make for the most intriguing matchup for your Saturday, your championship Saturday, I should say?
That's a good question. We saw Gretna push to Bellevue West earlier in the season, and then kind of pull away late. We also saw Bell West beat North by 20 the last time they played. And either way, I think both those teams, if they play their best, can have the pieces that can compete with Southwest. I guess I'll go Miller North just because I think maybe there's a little bit more upside there. They can beat you more ways maybe than Gretna can. I think that it's got a few more pieces. But that's no disrespect to Gretna, who has had a phenomenal season. They're locked in. There's tough as anybody to beat.
Jacob, appreciate you, bud. Keep up the amazing work. Courtside at Jacob Padilla _HailVarsity.com. Enjoy tonight. We'll see you tomorrow, bud. Thank you.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time here at Rosie's State Tournament. Semis going on at PBA 10th and P's, where your headquarters is. If you're in town or going to head down for state basketball, and of course, stop here for all your championship Saturday needs here at Rosie's 10th and P. Munchie and the crew will take care of you. Elijah Herbel back in studio. Chris Schmidt. A lot of folks have popped by to say what's up. Always appreciate you doing so. And we've had a hell of a good time here the last couple of weeks for Girls and Boys State. Hail Varsity presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Tom asks a great question, Tom, and we did not get to it in time before Jacob had to get ready for the B semifinal or the A semifinal coverage. Yeah, Fred's going to be looking at in-state kids. You've got a plethora of kids that have shown out not only all season but this weekend. And, I'm sure Nebraska is going to keep an eye on a number of the in-state kids. I mean, Dotzler's a wild guy. I know Jackson just got offered by UNO. The trick is, especially with some of the smaller schools, what can translate. In ball, guys who ball can ball. I mean, look at, and even Sammy Hoiberg, and he played at Pius, kicked butt at Pius. He's shown the ability to make an impact and do well in Big Ten basketball. So, yeah, you've got to be right with your projection. But yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Fred looks at a couple of Metro or Lincoln kids. You've just not been able to get the Metro kids to come to Lincoln. Nebraska's had a high number, Elijah, of kids go elsewhere. You look at Chucky that's at Wisconsin, the kid from Grand Island, Trout that's at Virginia, and of course Hunter Salas is doing really nice things in his role at Gonzaga. So that in-state emphasis isn't just a football thing. I get it.
Yeah, whenever I think about the kind of guys that Fred Hoiberg wants for his team, you got to think of guys within the state tournament that are shooters. That seems to be the be-all, and I shouldn't say the be-all, end-all, but the number one most important thing that Fred Hoiberg looks for is if you can come out of high school being a shooter, we can refine that, and then we can add other skills to your game. And whenever I think about that, I think Jaden Jackson at Bellevue West is a great option. Seems to be a guy that knocks down the three with some regularity, even more than I'd say a guy like Josiah Dotzler. Dotzler's so great off the dribble that I think he'll end up on his feet no matter where he goes.
He's locked in on Creighton anyway.
Yeah, but I don't think he was ever going to be a guy that Nebraska was truthfully all that serious upon, just because you look at the Creighton factor and how he plays the game of basketball. I don't think that was ever quite a fit, but Jaden Jackson's a possibility, and I guess you're going to wait and see who performs in a state tournament of this magnitude. You get into the final 4 games. I think what these guys do over the next 2 games, the next 2 days, is going to play a factor in their recruitment, especially for the guys such as Jaden Jackson, who are juniors that have a full college recruitment ahead of them.
Well, we want to make sure you tune in tomorrow, 7:30, the weekend edition of Hail Varsity Radio. Myself, Elijah Herbel, Mr. Mark Cranack. I'll be able to catch that on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, the KFOR Facebook and Twitter channel, and, of course, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle. Locally here on KFOR, we will have championship coverage tomorrow at 6. Coming up at 7:45 tonight, Jeff Moats will have Parkview Christian in action. Big thanks to everyone who stopped on down here at Rosie's, 10th and P. Incredible times down here. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning, 7:30 weekend edition with Hail Varsity presented by Currency. Take care.